Hi, Peter.
Hey, Red. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for coming back. How are you doing?
Really well, thanks. Happy to be back here. Really, I enjoyed this so much.
Could you tell the audience the date?
Today is May 22nd, 2025.
So this is our third interview. And today you have bought a painting that you said that you had sold at an auction?
Yes. So this is from Oman. I painted it in probably April or so, 2014. So I've been an artist, let's say, or starting to become an artist for about 6, 7 months. And a friend of mine, her name is Heather Ford. She was an art teacher at a school in Muscat called Sultan School. And it was a huge art program there. And what she had arranged, and it was the third year, I think, of this auction event with art for cancer. And it was specifically for this center called Dar Al Hanan Center, which is a home that was being sponsored through these auctions and other people to provide a place for families to stay while their family member was undergoing treatment in Muscat for cancer. So they were out-of-town people and it was out-of-town guests. I have in my family some history of cancer and having impacted my family. And so when I found out about the auction and she said, Peter, why don't you submit a painting as well? I said, why not? I can do something in the spirit for my family and for those that are in need. And the paintings that were being submitted already, which I had already seen some of, by some of the best artists in Oman. So it was a little bit intimidating to try and contribute something that they would also have already contributed art to, but I thought I should do this. So that's what I did. I did this painting that's in behind you, or
I love
behind
it.
me, sorry.
And I see that you've got a matching shirt.
I know. Unplanned.
Oh, really?
Yeah, maybe I knew subconsciously this is the painting because I knew in advance it was, but it was all wrapped up. It's been wrapped up in my home for a couple of weeks.
Oh.
And so obviously I know what it looks like, but I didn't think consciously about the choice of shirt. I just grabbed it off the rack and I said, okay, this is linen, nice and light, I'll wear it.
I love it. You look great today. And
Yeah,
the
thank
background
you.
is the same color as well.
Yeah, I love this color. So
you sold this painting at auction, but how do you still have it?
Well, let me talk about the auction first. My painting, it was number 46, which is actually twice my lucky number. My number is 23. So I was actually kind of pleased that it was 46, that it was selected. So I was the 46th entry, but there were many more entries that followed after me. A lot came in at the last minute, and mine was maybe submitted just 2 days before the event took place. It was going to be a live auction, which is what it was, in the auditorium of the Sultan School. When I arrived, there were probably 500 people in the audience. I had posted it on Facebook, and so some of my friends saw it and said, well, I really like it. Is there any way, so one from Greece, one from Canada, is there any way I can participate in the auction? I said, I don't know, let me see. And I checked with Heather, and she goes, yeah, we can figure out a way. And I said, great. So when I arrived in the event, it was full. It was jammed with people. There was lots of amazing energy there. The paintings were all distributed around the perimeter of the auditorium. And then the auction began. So Heather ran the auction, one painting after another after another. There were some extremely highly regarded artists that were in the audience. I was sitting right next to the person, one of the people that had a prominent piece up at the front. So it was exciting, and I was a bit nervous because I've never done anything quite like this before. And then my painting, the one before me actually, I think the artist was a little bit disappointed with the reception of his painting, but it sold. And this is the point of it, really, is to give and be generous. And then my painting come up, and Heather said to me, she said, Peter, I understand you have some people from overseas that want to bid on it. I said, yes. And she said, come on up. So I went up to the microphone. It was really kind of exciting. Got on the phone, and then the bidding process started with my two friends, one in Canada, one in Greece. And it sold for an extraordinary amount. Actually, I was like bowled over. And so was the woman that was sponsoring and sort of supporting the school. And I was thrilled with the amount that it sold for. And then when I sat down, I was just like, I can't believe this. It's amazing. And so the woman in Greece, her name is Nancy, she transferred her money, and then she told me after, she said, Peter, I love this painting so much, but it belongs with you. I want you to keep it. That's what she told me. And it was another just magic moment for me, because I wasn't expecting this at all either. I thought I would be parting ways with something that actually I love a lot, because the flowers in the back, they represented to me about hope. And even the orange color, it's a kind of an energetic color. And I wanted the sense of positive energy from the painting as well. So for her to ask me to look after the painting for her was a really, really special moment.
That's awesome. And when you painted it, was it for this particular event, were you saying?
Yes. Yeah. So it's when I agreed to do it, when I decided to do it, I went out and bought the canvas. And it's a vertical painting, so I didn't do anything horizontally with it at all. I thought about it for a little while, and I wanted something that represented, again, hope, really, and for there to be symbols of hope, which is what the flowers are. I'm not sure why I chose 4 flowers. I don't know why I chose the colors specifically like I did, because I played a bit with the colors until it felt right. And actually, if I was to peel off a layer from this painting of the flowers, they were a different color and even a different style. Something didn't feel right to me about it, and I painted over them until I got something that resonated with me. So,
What was the first kind of flower that you started with?
they were smaller. They were more like a yellowish tone, and just the style was a little bit different. I can't remember exactly how it was, but they weren't prominent enough for me. The flowers had to be really blossoming and really to draw your eye to them. And the first set was not, so I went bigger.
I love it. They're glowing behind you. Is there actually like glow in the dark paint? Like, what's it made of?
This is, I think, almost entirely acrylic. This is before, I believe, I started to do mixed media. So some of this paint would be just what I had bought available in Oman. I don't think I had started to buy the paint from Canada. There's a manufacturer in Canada that to me produces stunningly beautiful paint. I love it.
What
I
is
love
it?
to work with it. It's called TriArts, and they manufacture out of Kingston, Ontario, and they have paint like I've never seen anywhere else. That's very iridescent. That when you mix it, it's got this kind of shimmer to it, with different colors, different levels of opaqueness as well. Some of it's quite translucent, and very high quality. It compares with any quality of paint that I've heard of in Europe, and it's nice, really nice paint. Again, unusual. So it allows for my imagination to go a little bit further, because I'm working with materials that to me is somewhat magical. And so I like to co-create, and this paint really inspires me to do that. But this one was done before that. It was just a locally bought paints that I had.
Amazing. And why flowers? I know that you said it was for hope, but I can think of like lots of typical things that symbolize hope. I'm fascinated by the 4 flowers and even how they're arranged.
I'd have to turn around and look behind.
Yeah, do it.
Okay, and I will. So flowers first. My mother loved gardening, and she was alive at the time, but she loved gardening. And when I thought about memories from home, one of them is about my mother in the garden. And often my dad was in there because my mother insisted, so they would be often gardening together. And again, my mother was an inspiration because she used to tell me about her childhood, and her childhood was wandering through the fields. She lived in Medicine Hat, Alberta, on a farm, and walking home from school, she would see the bluebirds nearby. She was always looking out for them, beautiful songbirds, and the flowers in the field is what she was looking out for. And naturally, I guess for me, in terms of academic, I studied a lot of botany when I was in university. A lot of my field work for my master's up in the Arctic of Canada. I did a lot of work with flowers, and the flowers up there are just magical, stunning. The smell, the aroma. You're in subarctic Canada, very far north of Canada, and you see so many colors. And this used to inspire me a lot. Whenever I'd see them, the snow would disappear, the flowers would show up right away, within a day. And this is magic. I love this. And so I think this is partly why flowers, for me, they're so resilient, they're so beautiful, they seem delicate, yet they're not. So thinking about this now, you're drawing another memory for me. When I was doing my master's, I was in a place called Dodo Valley, Northwest Territories. So this is a far north. It was subarctic, not Arctic. And I remember I decided to take a day off, and I went up into the mountains because I was in a valley and I was surrounded by these limestone, called dolomite type of limestone mountains. Some of them had no vegetation on them at all. Some of them did. It just depended on the structure. And I was coming down this slope, and it was actually not a very wise decision because it was very unstable. Had I slipped, we wouldn't be having this conversation now. But as I'm walking down, there's nothing growing at all on the side of this mountain. And then I looked to my left, and there was a little tiny ledge about the size of my hand. And there was a little bit of dirt there. And sitting there was a yellow lady slipper. I don't know if you know what a lady slipper looks like, but it's a beautiful long stem flower with a few large leaves at the base. And then there's like a basin, almost like a cup in the shape of like a drop, almost like a water drop, but much bigger. And it was yellow. It was stunning. It was beautiful. And I thought, how could something so beautiful, so delicate, be growing in such a harsh environment and having just a little spot in order to do that? So flowers to me have always been a source of, again, to use the word wonder. I think this is probably why, although a lot of it wasn't conscious. I just do it because it felt right.
In the background of those flowers, there seems to be, what it looks like to me, pollen or lots of little flecks of orange and yellow.
So what's that about? A lot of times I'm just thinking about what I was doing back then. So this is 2014, so I have to think back a little bit. I remember applying them. I remember how I did it. I put some of the silver paint. So it's mainly silver colored paint. I put it in water. So I watered it down and I put it in a spray bottle, and I put it so that it was not spraying a mist but more like drops. And I sprayed it towards the canvas to create this effect. And for me, it was partly about rain. It was partly about energy. It was something to do with nourishment, and it was something to do with energy exchange as well, of which the flower was the ultimate expression of this beautiful energy coming down from the sky and enabling this kind of beauty to arise. This is, I think, what I was thinking about. At least that's how it feels to me, and I think that was a big part of it, was that. It was very spontaneous, unplanned again. I thought, let me put something there.
Even the green underneath, it has like little speckles of orange, and like it looks like embers from a fire.
Yeah, so that, if I'm thinking about what you're talking about, they were like insects for me, crawling up the stems, but almost like beetles that you would see in that are symbolic. The same kind of idea, these kind of beetles that you might see, these insects that are special in terms of providing a certain amount of the same mystical energy to the flowers. And so there's a little bit of mysticism associated. And I put those jeweled beetles really there, and partly for that reason, and also to imitate buds and leaves a little bit too, kind of merging insect life with plant life. It was playing a little bit with these ideas.
It's interesting. As you're saying it, it reminds me of like the cycle of life and every part of a flower's journey, from the rain falling into the ground to like all the bugs, and even when the flower grows and decays and then the bugs eat it and it goes back into the sky, this kind of thing, which ultimately, in my belief, is what happens to all life. We're on a cycle, right? So even when we're gone, our energy goes back into the world to become something or someone else.
Yes, yeah. Matter of fact, this is, when you study ecology and you spend a lot of time in nature, this is what you see all the time. I mean, with the seasons, you see, the spring, the summer of the blossoming, and then the fall when things start to shut down for the winter time, and then they once again reappears after a time of quiet. And that's the same, I believe, with the cycle of life for human beings as well. The energy is always there, shifting in one form or another to something else in a material sense, or even not materially connected or focused on anything in particular, and then with the possibility to return again. I agree. There's a lot to this. And, when people talk nowadays about circular economy and green economy, I believe now society's starting to get this notion of cycles and life and green and continuity, which if you talk to an indigenous person, especially those that are shaman or more spiritually oriented, or an ecologist, or even a regenerative farmer, they understand this.
What do you want people to know most about this painting? Because you did it for a particular purpose.
Yeah.
And it got given back to you.
Yeah.
So like a lot of your paintings, you said that you're not really there, or like you allow the flow, was your words. This one looks precise, you're actually drawing an object, not like the last one, which was just pure flow. It was for a particular purpose, and then it got given back to you. So it's like, I know a lot of your paintings you show over and over, so I'm struggling to ask you about this painting, actually, because it's just this one thing that was for a purpose, and now you have it with you. So, like, does it keep changing for you?
Well, that's a really interesting question. Again, you ask questions I haven't thought about before. You're right. This is a painting where I had a really clear intention and idea in terms of what I was trying to achieve. Although I didn't know exactly what it was going to look like, I was very careful in what I did. There was less of that kind of co-creative flow and me channeling and being very specific in what I was doing. I never thought about it quite that way before, but you're right. So there was that element to it, that it was very, very clear. My intention, my feeling was very specific the entire time. I concentrated a lot. I stayed with it a lot because of the style. Because I had to use the brush in order to create it. But I had that feeling and intention and goal the entire time. When I normally paint, it's more just, to use that word again, flow.
But you know when it's finished, right? Even when you're flowing, because you said to me sometimes you leave stuff overnight and then you come back and maybe it needs a bit more, or it's actually done and it's finished.
Yes. I knew this one was finished as well. Like when the last thing I was going to do was the flowers. And when I did the first set of flowers, it's not right. There's something not right about it. I don't know exactly, but I have to change the flowers. And when I did the next set, which is what you see now, I said, yes, this is it. I did a few other little minor things, and I go, yes, it's finished. But very different in terms of how it happened. So from the point of view of focus, I can think of only a few other paintings, and they're also very specific in terms of having more clear discernible shapes to them, and it looks like they were done with much greater care, which they were. And they've generated for me a lot of magic, a lot. And the magic of this one, I think, because each one has its own reason for being created. So this particular one was to show me something. And what it was to show me was, Peter, you can paint. Because I had a lot of doubt, actually. I thought, I'm not really an artist. I'm just playing a little bit. I'm not trained. And I've been invited to contribute. And I thought, why not? There's going to be a lot of really good paintings there. If I get, 50 dirhams for what I've done, nice. I've contributed something. But for me to actually have my painting be the top selling painting out of all the paintings there, it was like, my God, it was stunning for me. And I said, I can not only paint, but I think I can paint pretty well. I think that people seem to appreciate what I was painting. So it was really, I feel, a message for me. And I think this is what Nancy, who bid the highest amount in Greece, recognized. She said, Peter, you need to keep this for yourself, because it should be a reminder for you about the journey you're on and how far you are already along this journey. And think of this from that perspective. It's a reminder for you. It's like yes, you can do it, and you're going to grow even further. Because she told me this too. Just wait until you've painted even more. Just see where you are, and look back on this one and see your journey. So that was part of it for sure. I remember they published the results of the auction a few days later in the paper, and it was on the front page of the paper. And they had lots of paintings, let's say 5 or 6 there, including mine. And they had all these other paintings with the names of the artists underneath. But I was completely unknown. Nobody really knew who I was. And they had no name under mine because they didn't know who painted it. That was me. And I thought that was really, it was funny and fun and ironic in a way, but also at the same time, it told me a little bit more about the painting itself, that it's the painting that matters. It's not the name associated with it. There was something that resonated. And that was a really nice experience, actually. There are a lot of messages like this. And then I also learned some things about ego in this process as well, because some people were upset. I could see at what happened and transpired over the course of the event. And yeah, I smiled a little bit to myself, and that was kind of fun. But what was really interesting afterwards, I went to have coffee afterwards and with a few friends, and there was another guy sitting at a table next to us, and he had been there as well, but I didn't know who he was. And he finally said something. He turned to me and he goes, you know, this is never going to happen to you again, so enjoy it while you can. And I thought, what a negative thing to say. Why would you say something like this? And I don't even know who you are. And I thought, that's really interesting. It didn't upset me that much. It just told me something about him, and it told me something that didn't resonate with me. This is not my motivation. And this was also really validating for me as well, because I was really painting from the heart and from the soul, I felt. And I think I was. And there were so many nice experiences and messages that I got from this particular experience. To be able to contribute to something that can help society, to help people out, all of the reasons why I like to paint were all in this experience. Yeah. So painting without expectation, with heart, with intention, they're two different things. And I learned to discern the difference between the two of them as a result of this experience.
Did you get the opportunity again?
For auctions? I did actually. So, and it's me to choose. So this would be maybe a couple of years later. So by this time I maybe had 100 paintings with me in Dubai. And I began to wonder, because a lot of my paintings are under the sea. I seem to, one out of every 2 paintings, or maybe even more, I'm under the sea. And I used to wonder, why am I always ending up under the sea? This is really unusual. I have my ideas about that. But one night I remember thinking, why am I doing all these paintings about under the sea? What's the purpose? I woke up next morning, and a friend of mine, his name is Simon Wilson, very good artist, friend of mine. He's also a consultant. He's a marine biologist, really good guy from the UK. And I met him and knew him in Oman. We painted together on the roof of his home. And he contacted me the next morning after I was wondering what's the purpose of these paintings. And he said, Peter, I've been part of a launch or a process to create a new ocean conservation group, a global one. In the world, and we're going to host an event in Los Angeles, New Year's Eve. Are you interested to donate some of your paintings for auction for this event in LA? And I went, my God, I said, and it was about primarily coral reefs, because in some parts of the world they use dynamite for fishing, and in this part of the world they destroy so much, especially coral reefs. And there's a lot of concern, naturally, about this practice. And so part of the goal of this initiative was to raise awareness about this, because a lot of people don't know, and also just to generate some revenue to move forward in terms of these conservation efforts. To get an answer like that to my question so quickly was really amazing. So I actually ended up contacting a local airline, asking for some support to be able to bring some paintings to Los Angeles, and they weren't supportive, even though I gave letters from prominent people. It just wasn't good timing for them. I guess everybody has their budget sorted out by that time of year. And so I packed up 2 of my smaller paintings, both about coral reefs to varying degrees, and I took them myself to Los Angeles. And stood there and spent some time in the event. I have a photo of myself with one of the local celebrity who was a former NBA basketball player, and my son would shoot me, but I don't know what his name is. All I know is that he was like 7'2", and I'm standing beside him, and I should have been standing on a chair kind of thing, and then we would have looked me at his shoulder and him. But he was a really nice guy, and my painting's in the background. Very dim picture, but it brings back a lot of memories. And they sold very well. I was really, really pleased. They actually went to another initiative, which is about sharks. And I met some incredible people. And this is what I really enjoy about how it opens up doors to the kind of people you meet. So the next day, I went to, I think it's called, he does the Shark Week. So he's the founder of Shark Week. So you see this on Discovery Channel every year. So he was the founder of this, and then he had a gathering the next day after this event, and I went to it, and there was a woman there. Her name was Maria. She was a triathlete, so she had been training in the evening swimming, and she got attacked by a great white shark. She survived the attack, and she spoke to him about the incident. His name is Dave, and he said, you know, the problem is you chose the wrong time of day to be doing your training. He said the sharks come into shore when the sun starts to set. So you're rattling around, splashing around in the water. They can't tell. Are you a seal? Are you a fish? What are you? And so it took a bite, decided you weren't what it wanted. But, you know, a simple bite from a shark is going to create a problem. She survived that shark attack, of course. And now she does a run for the sharks. So she educated herself about it. She didn't become a shark hater, a shark fearful person. She does what she can to support sharks because she started to understand their importance in nature. And this to me is, again, another wonderful experience. So the paintings, they went very, very well. They sold for a lot of money, and they contributed towards her foundation. Really happy.
So did she keep the paintings?
No.
No way. You got them back?
No.
Oh.
Yeah, she kept the paintings, but whoever bought them by auction has them as well.
Okay.
So, yeah, and it was really interesting because the two paintings that I took with me, I had painted before my friend Simon asked me about it. One of them, when he told me about the event, one of the paintings looked like it had been devastated somehow, like coral reef. It had been destroyed somehow. And when he told me about the dynamite, I said, well, this is one of the paintings that I have to bring. And the other one had more like energy around it in terms of just like how prominent and how beautiful coral reefs can be and how magical they can be. So I thought, okay, Simon, you asked me, and I've got two paintings that fit perfectly with the theme. So I brought them with me, and it was a nice kind of serendipity, a nice alignment of different ideas all coming together at the same time. It's nice.
I love how open you are to like people asking you like sideline stuff, because it's sort of like from the side, you know.
Yeah, and this is really interesting because I think there's a spiritual message there too. I don't know if we talked about it last time, but we've certainly talked about it. This notion of being completely open to whatever signals are coming from whatever direction they are. I have a very bad sense of direction. I can't remember if I told you about walking to the bank. It's normally a 15-minute walk, and one time it took me 2 hours. I couldn't find it. I had no idea where I was because my mind was drifting. Who knows where it was going, but I was always losing track of where I was. But at the same time, subconsciously, I'm keeping track of everything. And so when these signs come in from left field, I think it's because of the way I've trained myself in a way by being lost all the time, that when something does come from out of the blue from the left field, I actually see it. I actually notice it. So that's one part of it. So it's the silver lining for being lost too much. And thank God for Google Maps. So the other part of it is...
Can I just ask a question? Sorry to butt in.
Sure.
On your 2-hour bank walk, did you discover something? Because sometimes when I go the wrong way, I'm actually in a way going the right way because I was meant to like discover something else. I don't know if you discovered anything on your 2-hour bank walk.
Well, you know, sometimes I go with the flow. Sometimes, and I have lots of examples where I go, okay, this is what it's about, and I end up having what I was supposed to experience, a magic moment. In this particular instance, there was no magic for me. I was just getting so upset, and I mean the fact that Edmonton, the city, is a grid. So there's no curved streets or anything. You either go north and west, or sorry, there we go, see? You either go north and south or east and west. And I just couldn't figure it out. So I started to follow this grid pattern. I go up one street, a few blocks, and then go left, come back. And I probably turned the wrong way to begin with. So I had to double back. I can't remember the whole exercise, but it was like, anyway, I eventually found the bank. So, but those other instances, what you're talking about, is really interesting too, because I remember one time I was in Greece, and it's beautiful. I was near the Acropolis in Athens, and I saw this really cool street, like lots of shops, lots of tourists, lots of interesting things. That was maybe 2 or 3 blocks ahead. So I started to walk towards that, and I said, definitely, I want to have a look at that and be in the middle of it. And I got a block away from it, and for some reason, I felt a compulsion, a very gentle one, to turn left. So what was the focus for me suddenly didn't become, and I got guided left. And I thought, that's weird, but I went with it. So I wandered down the street, and there on the corner was an art store, an art studio. And I walked inside, and a lot of the art was sculptures out of steel, out of bronze, out of glass, octopus, mermaids. Under the sea was the main theme. And sitting in the back was the artist. He used to be, I think, an economist, I believe, and he discovered art, or it him, and now he does this. And I was just amazed. It was beautiful. It was like being under the sea. And I thought, okay, so this is why I turned down this street. So we started chatting, and eventually he said, come back in a couple of days. I said, I'll be back. Can I come back in a couple of days? He goes, sorry, I can't. He said, I'm not going to be here. I've been asked by the Greek government to represent Greece at an event. I said, oh, really? He goes, yeah, it's in Dubai. I said, really? I said, I live in Dubai. He goes, you're kidding. So I met him again when I went to Dubai. So it was really fantastic.
Wow.
I've had many of those kind of moments, and I'm really glad. With my older son, David, he's my way shower when it comes to this kind of thing. So I just follow him wherever he takes me, and always something special happens, which is really nice.
Yeah, you've got lots of beautiful stories about David.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
So your comment about having like a feeling or a gentle push to turn left, that's exactly how I ended up with a dog. That's exactly how Frank came into my life.
Really?
Yeah, I was going straight to the car park, and something just turned me, well, it was to go right, just turned me right, and I just carried on walking all the way down to where he was, and it was like, couldn't resist.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's really nice.
Exactly how Frank came into my life.
He's such a beautiful dog.
He is. He's amazing.
Yeah.
So I have a question to ask, and it's also been ticking in my head since I've looked at that painting. What kind of flowers are they? Or are they just any flower, because you know botany, so...
There are nothing specific. I was thinking a little bit lily. There's, in the boreal forest in northern Canada as well, in western Canada, there's a lily called Lilium philadelphicum. And it's an orange lily. It doesn't open up quite as wide as this, but it's similar colors. There's even a little bit of texture on the flowers, on the petals, that reminds me of this a little bit, although I think it's more like little brown spots or something like this, so I stylized it a bit. I believe this was the inspiration behind part of the design. These are my memories, because I work for the botany department at the university for a couple of summers, so I spent a lot of time in the boreal forest, so the northern forest in Canada, which is an incredible place, full of songbirds. But my job was to learn the vascular plants, primarily the shrubs. So I knew the vascular plants, shrubs, flowers, some grasses, most of the grasses. And this is one of my favorites, was the lily. But there's many beautiful flowers. I think this is where it came from, but it wasn't designed or painted to be specific to that.
Do you know what flowers they remind me of?
No.
Van Gogh's flowers. You know, the big orange ones with the sunflowers?
Yeah, that's really interesting. Since you mentioned that, when Nancy saw the painting,
yeah,
she said it reminded her, did she say Van Gogh or Monet? I think it was Van Gogh. She said this as well. She said it's like those flowers. This is on the same level for her as those flowers. And
Yeah, there's something sorry. There's something wild and tragic about them, but they're so bright. And with the painting of Van Gogh's like sunflowers in that vase, it's the same for me. It's like they're screaming with energy, you know, like they're burning, and they're wild, like they're amazing flowers in a vase. It wasn't just like some flowers in a pot. You know, and these are the same thing, like they're in the grass and there's a blue sky, but they're like fire. They're like so brightly burning amongst that shrubbery, you know. I love it.
you know, I thank you, and I think I was actually feeling this, and that was part of my intention. I wanted the flowers to have a lot of energy, and I wanted there to be not just the appearance of hope, but one to feel that as well. I seem to recall this when I was painting, and I think this is partly why I wasn't satisfied with the first flowers that I did. They didn't give me that, what you're talking about right now. I think that's part of it, but it's so interesting, this reference that I keep hearing about with Van Gogh and some of these other painters from a long time ago. Which,
and again, it's not necessarily the actual painting style, it's the energy of it.
Yeah.
You know, so even with these, like the fact that you painted that about cancer, which also I didn't know. I knew it was for an auction. I didn't know it was for cancer. And a friend of mine passed away 2 days ago of cancer.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
No, but it's beautiful because they fought every bit of their life. You know, it was one of those sudden, the news, and they didn't have long left. And this person fought with every inch of their life. And they are like that. They're like those flowers, you know. So it's wonderful. I really appreciate this painting coming in today.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. You know, it makes me think as well that when we do leave, it's not like we're gone. And I mean, just the memories you have of your friend who passed a couple of days ago, that'll go on for a long, long time. And that's memories that you're conscious of. And the experiences and the energy that they brought here will stay for, I would say, forever in one form or another. Of course, it transmutes and transforms. It's really nice, just like a painting can, like some of the paintings from 150, 200 years ago. They maybe even have more power now than they did before.
Right. And there's a lot of people in the last 2 years that I know, and family, friends, that have passed away from cancer. It's becoming popular amongst my life. I don't know if it's anyone else, but it's a thing that's happening a lot recently. And I think this painting is very important for people that need it at this particular time. So it showed up again at a time that it's needed. So thank you, Peter.
You're welcome. And it reminds me, see, every time you ask me a question or you make a little statement, something that I'd forgotten about comes back. When I was in Oman, I used to go to the beach called Azeba Beach, which is, I could walk to it from my villa, but often I drove to it because there was a part of the beach I liked in particular. And there was a pilot from Oman Air that used to be on the beach a lot. I'd see him. So we chatted quite a bit. He was from the former Yugoslavia. And he told me about this young boy who, when he was maybe 6 or 7 years old, asked his parents, maybe even younger, I need colors, I need paper. And he would start to draw. And one day he drew a city in red paint, I believe, or red whatever he was using, maybe crayons. And then there was a lot of like chaos around those buildings. And they said, his parents said, what is this? They said, well, this is Belgrade, our city, under fire, in fire. And this is before the war started, many months before. And they were surprised because, especially when a few months later, a number of months later, the war broke out of the blue. And then he continued to do art. And what people started to discover about his art was that it had healing powers to it. So he managed to refine it to a certain extent or enough that if somebody had a particular condition, he would be able to paint energetically something that would help them. deal with it. It's really, really amazing. I never met him. I never saw, but I heard lots of stories about him from my pilot friend. It was really fascinating, and it shows the power of art potentially is quite something. It's quite special.
Do you mind if I try and find this person and put him in the information below?
Yeah.
I also want to find the basketball player.
I tried to find, and I probably should ask my son David, who's really into basketball.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I'll send you the picture
Please,
of the
I would love
basketball
that.
player. It's a goofy picture
Maybe
because he's so tall.
Maybe people can tell us who he is.
Oh, maybe. He played with the Los Angeles Clippers. And he then went as a coach. He was actually, at that time, a coach in China.
Okay,
for
so
basketball.
you know what he did. You just can't remember his name.
And I tried to find.
Okay. I'm sure people will help.
Yeah. Okay.
If anyone knows, please help us out.
Yeah, thank you. Please.
Why did you decide to bring this painting today?
Because you asked me.
But why did you even select it out of the three?
Well, because it meant it was a step for me. Like I mentioned at the beginning, I was just kind of entering in a kind of a shy way this whole notion of painting. I'd had the experience with the rock garden already. I had seen that the power of imagery, what it can do, and I was drawn to it. I didn't have necessarily a lot of self-confidence when it came to painting itself. And I painted because I felt a compulsion to. I wasn't interested in being like the best or recognized or anything like that, but I wondered, so how good am I in a way, subconsciously? And this experience with this painting showed me that, yeah, whatever it is that it takes to become a proficient painter, somebody whose paintings can have impact, you have those qualities, Peter. And this is very important for me because it really gave me encouragement to continue. I'd say that's why.
I love that. With your other paintings, you say that you were waiting for the message to come through and that you get a compulsion to paint. And this was the same, but you had a reason. So you do actually have lots of different modalities of how you paint, but yet the vibe of them ends up the same. But you said the ones with intention have actually been more magical in a way.
Magical in a different way.
Okay.
So this one surprised me in terms of what happened in let's say a 3D sense.
But you asked the question, right?
It's true. Another one that I did with not necessarily specific intention, but I was waiting for Eid or for Ramadan for the feeling to happen because I was in Oman. It was Ramadan, and these are spiritually powerful times, and I am impacted by them in a good way. So I thought for sure the feeling is going to come, and it wasn't. I was just waiting. I thought, what's going on here? What's wrong with me? And part of that was to do with expectation. So like if you're looking to see if you've been visited by an angel and you're looking for a white feather all the time and you don't see it, that's because your expectations are probably keeping it away, and also because the signal may be quite different. So I eventually learned just to relax and to allow whatever it was to unfold. It's a co-creation in a sense. So sometimes I don't really have a specific idea. Sometimes it's the universe that has more of the idea, and I just allow myself to be open to it and let myself be guided and express whatever it wants to express. Other times I have more of the idea, and so I do it and the universe helps me. So it's never a constant formula, but I know that it's a co-creation.
I love that. Thank you so much, Peter, for today. I've really enjoyed this one. Do you have a painting in mind for next time?
I do. I actually have two. And yes, I have two. One of them is quite, let's say, if you want to call it supernatural, in terms of just what happened. It was very unexpected, but it was really amazing for me what happened. And the other one was a very important lesson for me in terms of just how energy works and how love works and why we can be so challenged by love. And I learned that lesson from that painting.
Okay, so if you guys want to see the lesson painting, or you want to see the, what was the other one, the mystical one,
Sure.
let us know. We'll do it next. Well, good night, Peter, and we'll see you soon. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Red. Again, I really enjoyed it, and I hope everybody else does too. These are fantastic experiences for me.